minimize this one.
What's that? Oh, I think
Yeah.
Did you know you had your Pronto up there? Did you intentionally wait to put your first PowerPoint up there?
I did. I did.
So for the future, blank screen.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so
But yeah, because
you had already started, but you had an air about you that was like, I think she knows this, and I trusted that. Okay.
Yes,
So, but next
it was
time, just blank
intentional.
it and then put it on. Yep.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys about a company called Edelman. Edelman's actually where I worked before coming to BAPS, and they happen to be the largest supplier of public relations services in the world. So since PR is at really the heart of what Edelman does, and since PR happens to be one of the more, I'd say, ambiguous fields of marketing, couldn't really do Edelman justice without talking a little bit more about PR in general. So I think a lot of people have pretty good understanding of, or somewhat of an understanding of what PR is. And know that PR people are sort of the external face of the organization, but what is it that they do exactly, right? What is involved? How does PR fit into the marketing world? Why do people pay upwards of millions of dollars for some of these services? And lastly, why is Edelman so important? How did they create this industry? And really, where do they fit in today? So the best way to think about PR is to understand that it's pretty similar to advertising, and that they're both disciplines, I would say, under the marketing umbrella. But whereas advertising is really the art of crafting your own message to communicate to your audience about why they should buy a certain product or certain brand, PR is really the art of persuading influencers of the world to talk positively on behind your behalf. So, if you're reading, about various companies in the Wall Street Journal or the Times, oftentimes the reporters that write these stories are actually communicating with the PR folks to get the content, to get the information that goes into those stories. So it's really a two-way street, right? The PR people have the content, the information, and the access to the companies that the media needs to write their stories, and the media has the outlet that oftentimes the PR, the companies need. So this really can be thought of in a proactive sense, in that it's a lot of positive spin, right? So your client isn't paying their PR person to talk negatively about them. But it can also be thought in the reactive sense, in that it's a lot of crisis communications, right? So ideally, the PR folks are the master communicators. They're the ones that are expected to really navigate through those difficult conversations if that company is going through a time of turmoil. And so since PR folks are often communicating with the media on behalf of their clients, a lot of times the media is going to want to hear directly from the clients themselves. And in PR, we call this contributed content. So ideally, or theoretically, the way this would work is, an executive is going to spend hours condensing all their decades of business knowledge into a 1,000-word article. And so here's an example I wanted to share with you guys. It's an article that actually I wrote, was published in Fortune magazine back in 2012. I wrote it on behalf of my client at the time, which was a guy by the name of Joseph Adachi, who's the CEO of Canon, about how to climb through the innovation pyramid. And so, what's the big takeaway here, right? So the next time you read an article from some business executive in a magazine, know that that executive probably has no idea what was actually in the article. It was written on some idle Tuesday by some naive cat executive from New York City. Probably stayed out a little bit too late the night before. So, why is Edelman so important? Why does this all apply to Edelman itself? Edelman is the largest privately held public relations firm in the world. They have about 4,500 employees, about 70 offices across 50 different countries. They do about a little bit shy of $1 billion a year in annual revenue, making them by far the market leader. The next closest company is a company called Ketchum. They're about less than half the size. So Edelman is the agency of record for many well-known brands, some of which I want to include here are Dove, Starbucks, Xbox. And what that means is the agency of record is that Edelman is responsible for setting the entire strategy and branding direction for all the other agencies that follow. So multinational corporations like these guys won't just work with one PR or one advertising agency. They're going to work with many, and the agency of record sets the tone for all the rest to follow. Unique thing about Edelman, given their size especially, they offer 34 different services, so some of which include traditional PR, which I was mentioning earlier, management consulting, research analytics, etc. And they do this for 19 separate industries. Some of these include technology, consumer packaged goods, healthcare, education. So back in the 1950s, let's say early 50s, when Edelman was first starting to offer PR services along with Ketchum, Burson Marsteller, or Will Be a Matter, Edelman has been able to sort of establish their dominance for the past 60 years by their ability to offer these various different services, right? So they can essentially serve any client need all under one roof. This is something that the other big guys have really struggled with and haven't quite been able to replicate as well as Edelman. So that gives a lot of certainly information about how they've gotten to where they are today. And so lastly, the trust barometer. So Edelman is a major participant at the annual World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. And so every year, the trust barometer is a big focus of conversation. And this is basically it's a study that Edelman does that looks at the level of trust between corporate executives and the broader public. It's usually a big focus of conversation at the event and throughout actually the month of January, because it sets the stage that all other PR firms actually and a lot of other services companies follow in terms of the level of trust that companies have and the broader public has with their executives. So I wanted to end with just a quick snapshot of Edelman's latest marketing campaign, so show it differently. And I think the reason I wanted to end with this is it really highlights the way that Edelman has sort of done things a little bit differently over the year. They've offered a lot of different services that have extended far beyond PR. I also think it's kind of funny because it almost looks like the stupid fish, sort of going in the wrong direction away from everybody else. But I like to think that Edelman has established itself to being almost $1 billion PR firm, the only one in the world, so they're probably doing something right. So that's it.
Great, again, lots of information. It's 5:59. Make sure I don't look at it. Yeah, okay.
You're going to command your language to your base. Smooth, you're not stopping any so like that. You're go ahead with that. You're slower than last time. The only thing that I would want to improve in the slide, like I think I go by 4 words, 4 lines in the slide. There's a lot of text in some of the slides.
Good, so
Rob.
Clearly knew the topic very well, seemed very passionate about it, communicated extremely well, not lots of ahs or uhs or pauses. I would say that he did speak pretty fast, and it's like a lot of information to swallow. So we'll slow it down a little bit.
I thought you did a great job. I think you're a natural public speaker. Just be mindful of jokes that you make because it might undermine your message. I think there was something about being hungover when you wrote it or something along those lines. I know it's a joke, but like if you're doing a presentation, just be mindful of anything that might dilute the message.
Like, it was good, it's really good. The only thing was your expression. There were a couple of points where it was very important, and if somebody's not listening or something, you can actually catch the attention by your voice going a little up or down.
Modulation.
Yeah, modulation, a little bit, so that's the only thing, otherwise it's perfect. So.
I really like your content. You probably could have gotten away by just saying that Edelman is a PR firm and maybe moved into its place within the industry, but you gave us an example of a piece that you wrote and really tied the subject into something tangible. So I
And then also added the credibility.
Exactly.
From the introduction, that this is an example of derived credibility, so it's, we didn't know this before, well, I didn't know, but, didn't know before, I got that in the introduction, and then you got it throughout the speech, and that's that derived, that turns into that terminal credibility for it. Yeah, lots of information, you can see your personality and your passion come out for it. I think the rate might be because it's the last speech too, and you want to get through it, so aside from the rate itself, if we're seeing the same rate next time, then I'll work on that piece, but aside from the rate, you did have some good organization, a little more preview, where you're going, but we were able to follow it, and as you did, keep connecting to the audience of what each point is and why you're covering that piece, but there were sections that, just take a breath, because it was really important information, we could feel the passion for it, but let us catch up to where you are again. I think it was because, I apologize again going over, I think it was because part of it was because, I'm not sure, I'm like 50-50 on it. It could be because you were so passionate about it, so we'll be able to